And our next speaker is Ajay Khaled Carr, the Technical Program Manager of Advanced Manufacturing and Industry 4.0 Solutions at RIT GIS Center of Excellence. His core expertise includes leading strategic digital transformations via Industry 4.0 solutions, Lean and Six Sigma implementation, leading capital projects for technological advancements, manufacturing engineering, and organizational culture change. Ajay, how are you?
Doing well, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take it away.
Thank you. Well, excuse me, I'm just trying to open the presentation. Having a little bit of difficulty finding the right tab.
And Ajay, I have the presentation up for you on my end if you'd like to continue.
Give me one more chance, Ben. I think this happened during our trial run as well. It takes a little bit of time to come up. Okay, how about we just go ahead with your solution there?
Okay.
Thank you. So my name is Ajay Khaled Carr, and I am the Technical Program Manager for Advanced Manufacturing and Industry 4.0 here at RIT. Next slide, please, Ben. I don't know how much you guys know about GIS, but we've been around for 20 odd years, and most of New York State knows about the sustainability aspect of the GIS, but we also have 6 applied research centers focused around sustainable manufacturing and production. We have around 120 plus researchers on campus, and we usually have $15–16 million in sponsored external funding. So a lot of great activity. One of the staggering statistics here is that we have impacted more than 1,100 companies in New York State. So if you haven't benefited from our expertise, please do get in touch. Next slide, please, Ben. A sample of some of the projects we've done through our Center of Excellence here. Remanufacturing is a strong focus because of the sustainability aspect of the industry, as well as manufacturing process optimization, digital manufacturing, product development, design optimization. And we've worked really with small and medium scale manufacturers as well as larger names. And most of the rest of the presentation is focused around this digital manufacturing, but these are the other areas of the Institute as well. Next slide, please, Ben. So let's talk about COVID-19 a little bit. We had a set of priorities before the pandemic. We had probably most of the small and medium scale manufacturers were focused on growth, product innovation, lead times, time to market, cost effectiveness, and process quality. Pandemic gave us some significant challenges, unprecedented challenges in terms of cash flow liquidity, elevated risk to our human resources, severe supply chain disruptions in some cases, and that has appended the priority list post-pandemic. So now we have worker health safety as a new concern. We have cost effectiveness going up much further ahead because cash flow is important. Supply chain resilience wasn't a focus for us, but it is now. Growth and product innovation are still important, but I would argue that the other 3 take higher precedence. The good news is that Industry 4.0 is applicable as much, if not more, in post-COVID-19 priority list going forward. Next slide, please, Ben. Ben? Yep. So a bit of context on manufacturing. If you are to divide manufacturing, it's discrete and continuous, and further divide discrete into engineer to order, or make to stock, being cost effective has different kind of challenges depending on what your business model is. So generally speaking, as we go from left to right on this slide, the certainty of demand goes up and your product abstractness goes down. So it becomes kind of challenging to be cost effective. However, Industry 4.0 has applications across the spectrum. Next slide, please, Ben. Folks before me have covered this, and I only have 10 minutes, so we can go ahead and skip this slide, Ben. So Industry 4.0 is a pretty wide and all-encompassing term, and it's important to dissect it and break it down into its individual chunks. And we believe the assessment framework developed by Singapore Economic Development Board does a great job at doing just that. So it's important to understand where the benefit can be and map it to the appropriate department in your organization. So we see 16 dimensions here on the screen, and it's really applicable to the 3 building blocks in your organization: the process, technology, and organization. The promise in terms of process is around seamless information exchange. How tightly integrated are your operations? How tightly integrated is your supply chain? And how much control do you have over your product life cycle? The technology aspect is really the core of your value chain and how you're doing things. So automation, connectivity, intelligence, how much of the work is being done by machines, how connected these machines are, and how much intelligence are you driving from those connections. And organization part of it is really related to how smart your workforce is to transition from Industry 3.0 to 4.0, and how is your structure around collaboration and leadership to sustain the benefits you might gain from Industry 4.0. Next slide, please, Ben. So speaking of vertical integration, you receive an order, you typically have an ERP system, and you typically perform your work on the lower level with your machines. And there is an information flow from your ERP system to your machines. So vertical integration relates to how tightly integrated these different layers are throughout your organization, and how seamless is the information flow through them. If you receive an order and you do not have a manufacturing execution system or a SCADA system, or you do not have a flow to the right stakeholders within the system, it drives inefficiencies. So why care about vertical integration? Well, higher efficiency in making and implementing operational decisions, enabling analytics within the organization, and ultimately driving cost effectiveness is the reason you care about vertical integration. Next slide, please, Ben. Similarly, it's important to understand horizontal integration. Computer systems connected end-to-end, integrating customers, enterprise, suppliers into all one single homogeneous supply chain is extremely important. And folks before me have touched upon the aspect of how vulnerable our supply chains were pre-COVID era, and that kind of exposed us to some of the problems across the globe. So it's important to have visibility to build a resilient and a reliable supply chain, and Industry 4.0 holds that promise. So cost effectiveness for demand aggregation is something else that horizontal integration can help you achieve. And of course, if you are an organization that would like to share data with the customers on where the products are within the value chain, horizontal integration enables that as well. Next slide, please, Ben. The third thing here in terms of data exchanges is product lifecycle integration. If you are an engineer to order or make to order kind of company, you need a common information platform to integrate all the thousands of data points around your product. And I actually come from an engineer to order background, so this hits home with me. You have several hundreds of CNC programs, you have fixtures, you have molds, dies, you have manufacturing engineering data, you have design data. If you do not have a common platform, it kind of becomes extremely daunting to share information across your subsidiaries and your suppliers. So having a PLM system can hugely reduce the burden around driving engineering efficiency, speed, flexibility to meet growing need for personalization. Next slide, please, Ben. So, Ben? Yep. So next 9 dimensions relate to automation, connectivity, and intelligence. And I love the analogy Singapore EDB came up with to have automation depicted as the skeletal and muscular system in human body parlance. The connectivity dimensions are really your nervous system, and the intelligence dimensions are your brain. So how much of your work is being done by machines, how much of the operation is really connected to each other, and how much data are you drawing, and how much of that data are you using? That's the promise of these 9 dimensions. And we have seen Dan's presentation actually that gives a great idea on what robots and cobots can do in different situations. Similar promise is on the front end, where you have office and enterprise functions, where robotic process automation holds the promise of freeing up human capital for more engaging and creative work. And if you are a facility that has a large infrastructure, typically warehouses or retailers, you have these myriad expenses around maintaining the facility: boilers, chillers, parking, security. There's promise of automation in automating all of these aspects and optimizing them for driving cost effectiveness. Next slide, please, Ben. Connectivity and IoT is a focus in this era, because we have sensors and the technology has advanced to a level where we can pretty much monitor anything we want to. And interconnecting equipment and machines to enable communication and data exchange, it holds a large promise, because we have until now we had silos in different departments. Going forward, there is an opportunity to integrate all of that and drive intelligence and have a smarter operation. So increased visibility to derive higher operational efficiency is a promise that IoT in general and connectivity holds for us. Next slide, please, Ben. So I would argue that connectivity is really a means to an end. If you collect a bunch of information and do nothing with it, it's not of much use. But having artificial intelligence or processing and analysis of data to optimize existing processes is the real value of Industry 4.0, in my opinion. So we are at a point where we can probably look back and see what happened. So we have descriptive analytics, but Industry 4.0 can give you capability to understand why things happened. So go to a diagnostic level, move on to a predictive level to foresee what can happen in the near future. And ultimately, the holy grail is to go to a prescriptive analytics phase, where we can understand how can we make things happen that we want to happen. So smarter asset maintenance through predictive analytics, optimized inventory, higher customer satisfaction through leveraging all these things is a promise that Industry 4.0 holds. Next slide, please, Ben. Of course, Industry 4.0 needs qualified personnel, and the framework has 4 dimensions for the human-related aspects of Industry 4.0. How good is your workforce learning and development strategy? How quickly can you move from Industry 3.0 to 4.0? How competent your leadership is to grasp all these myriad tools and implement it for your continued relevance and competitiveness of your organization. How strong is your intra-company and inter-company collaboration strategy? And do you have a digital-first kind of strategy and governance framework to execute the plan of action and identify opportunities in the long run? There are arrows here on this slide kind of show top and bottom, because we believe 13 and 15 are really driven by the frontline operators and workers, while 14 and 16 are really a top-down kind of approach where management can drive Industry 4.0. Next slide, please, Ben. So a recap, 16 dimensions, that's a lot to talk about, but I wanted to give you a breadth of what Industry 4.0 can do. It's important to understand that there are 3 fundamental information exchange laws that have enabled us to come to this point. We've doubled our data processing capacity every 18 months or so. We've doubled our transmission capacity every 9 months or so. And we have doubled our storage capacity every 12 to 15 months. So that is a massive exponential change that industry faces. And all these foundational technologies are available out there, and there are products that leverage these foundational technologies to make an impact on your organization. And this is where probably GIS or RIT comes into picture with higher value proposition to make a quicker impact on your organization. Next slide, please, Ben. So I tried to simulate what the digital transformation journey would look like for a small and medium scale manufacturer. Left side here, you see that the company goes through an assessment with someone like us and scores on a scale of 0 to 5 on each of these 16 dimensions. And this particular example is for a job shop kind of environment where you have a bunch of machines, and connectivity, intelligence, and visibility is a really important thing. If you click through it, Ben, maybe a couple times, you can see year 1 scores and year 2 scores. So that's good right there. So it's important to prioritize what you want to work on. And Singapore EDB has fortunately given us a framework on how you can prioritize the opportunities you've discovered through the assessment. So firstly, we need to take what your current state is. If you're a lean practitioner, you're in tune with the PDCA kind of mechanism with identifying your current state, identifying what the future state vision is, looking at what the gaps are, and then creating a plan to bridge those gaps. This is pretty much the same framework with identifying your current state digital maturity in first step, identifying the impact to your bottom line as a second element, essential objectives for your business. So what are your KPIs, combining all that with your profit and loss statement. And lastly, if you have enough data available, look at where you stand in terms of your peer network in similar industries. To combine all these 4 elements, we can drive some prioritization exercise and chart a 3 to 5 year roadmap. So next slide, please, Ben. So ultimately, I just wanted to emphasize that this is a never-ending exercise, and really the goal would be to reach the highest level where you are in an adaptive phase, and you have a self-optimizing kind of manufacturing operation in an ideal state. So we see Industry 4.0 as something that is going to be around for a long time. Next slide, please, Ben. So a quick recap on what you can engage us for. We conduct comprehensive introduction to Industry 4.0 sessions for decision makers. We have an expert team that can conduct digital maturity assessments for you guys. We have some prioritization guidance where we can combine all these elements and help you prioritize what you want to work on first that can make most sense for the organization. And having done all that, we can also help you develop a strategic Industry 4.0 roadmap in the longer run that can help you chart the vision for 3 to 5 years. And of course, we're also here to help you with standalone R&D projects. If you have a project that is, that you're forced to implement because competition is moving in that direction, GIS has an expert team that can help you do that. So there's one more thing that's not on this slide. We just are in discussions with Digital Manufacturing and Digital Innovation Institute, now known as MXD, to develop a digital manufacturing ROI framework for small and medium scale manufacturers. So if you are a progressive company that wants to implement Industry 4.0, if you've made some decisions, if you have your own way of conducting ROI exercises, we would like to hear from you. So we would love for you to get in touch with us. Next slide, please, Ben. And if you do need contact information, the slide deck has this last slide that can help you get in touch with us over email. I would like to thank FuseHub and the fantastic team. Loved being a part of this event. Thanks, Ben. And thank you, everyone, for having me with this August lineup here.